Starlink a bit doomed? Not so fast. I'm Brian. Welcome to my Tesla weekend. Move this in a little bit here. That's a little bit better. How is everybody? How am I sounding? Am I looking good? Am I sounding good? As a reminder, you are watching the full version that goes out Friday live, or maybe you're watching the replay over the weekend on the main channel, My Tesla Weekend. It's whichever one's on the screen. Second channel is a lot of fun if you haven't checked it out, although I feel silly saying that because the only people I'm saying it to right now are watching it on the second channel. SpaceX just lost up to 80% of its recently launched Starlink satellites. Here's why. That, my friend is clickbait. That makes it sound like they lost thousands of satellites, when in fact they lost 40 of the 49 that had been launched due to a solar flare. That's not a bad thing. I mean, it is, in a small way, but really it's proof of concept of the constellation. Starlink is impossible. I don't know if you know this, but it is impossible. You want to cover the whole planet in relatively fast, relatively affordable internet. Do you know how many satellites you're going to need? Like, more than exists. It's pretty crazy. SpaceX could go bankrupt if production issues persist. Oh, doom. It's doom and gloom, my friends. Well, this was an internal email. And Elon loves to send these to motivate the crew. And it works. He'd said the same thing during production hell for the Model 3. And even though he said we were weeks from bankruptcy, no, you were weeks from getting another loan or doing another stock offering. You weren't actually weeks from bankruptcy. I mean, technically, sure, but the Raptor production crisis is much worse than it seemed a few weeks ago. Yeah, it's unclear how likely bankruptcy would actually be. But now, we're kind of past that. Paul wants to know, will the FUD ever end? No. I believe the answer to that is no. Is Starlink doomed to modest success? I love it. It's modest clickbait. It's not bad. It's not bad on the scale of clickbait. But, you know, will Starlink ever be better than so-so? Will it ever be more profitable than so-so? The answer is yeah. In terms of percentages, rocket companies aren't generally very, very profitable. In terms of sheer dollars, they are, because the dollars are huge. But in terms of percentage, not so much. Starlink will change that. So yeah, bankruptcy looming. Well, what is the actual scale of Starlink? Because remember, we were talking about this just a second ago. It's impossible. You can't do it. You would need to have 11 kajillion satellites. And when they submitted their proposal to the FCC to get bandwidth, they said, yeah, we're going to launch a few thousand satellites and then a few thousand more. And everyone, rightfully, was skeptical. How many satellites are orbiting the Earth in 2021? Now, this is after Starlink had launched an awful lot. How many satellites do you think were actually up there? Operational ones. 3,372 total worldwide since forever. And that includes a bunch of the Starlink ones. Well, Starlink is already at about 2,300. Starlink is already over half of the operational satellites in orbit. And just kind of for fun, you know, Elon owns roughly 50% of SpaceX. So Elon, personally, is the majority owner of the majority of satellites in orbit that are operational. And it ain't slowing down. That's just kind of crazy to wrap your head around, isn't it? Not so fast. Look at how many there are. This is a neat one. I'll put the link in the description. Starlink.sx It shows the position of all the satellites overhead at any given time and where the connection is to the nearest ground station. There's all the satellites that I'm talking to right now, potentially, on Starlink, which is amazing when you consider how often we run into buffering issues. Another one, this is satellite-map.space. This shows you, in clearer dots, all of the satellites. And these long strings are recently launched trains, as it were, that have not yet gone all the way up into their respective orbits. But you can see that's a lot of recent launches, man. And all those dots, every single dot is a satellite run by Starlink. Oh, breathtaking. Elon says SpaceX will double Starlink satellite internet speeds later this year. Now, I assume he means the $500 a month plan, because the speeds are... I don't know. What are the speeds? Starlink US download speeds drop, but service blasts broadband out of the park globally. So this is a neat article. It explains that, in Q3 of 2021, speeds were down 10%. That's not bad. The down speed, I don't mind. I don't have any issues streaming 4K video. I don't have any problems downloading large files. My problem is the upload speed, which is painful. The median download speed for customers was 104.97 megabits per second. And if you compare that to other satellite providers, it's a fantastic speed. The ping is better than any other satellite provider. The bandwidth is not only faster, but unlimited. Unlimited bandwidth is huge. My cousins had, one of the satellite providers for their cabin, and I believe their cap was 2 gigs a month. 2 gigs. Yeah, we just use it for email. They have Starlink now. They love it. They are as connected as they would be at home. So I ran a speed test just to see. 26 milliseconds for the ping, 96 down, 11.5 up. Not too shabby. Kind of in line with what I guess I'm supposed to expect. But I swear it was faster early on. When I go to upload a big file, boy, it's painful. It's painful. Not as painful as it was with Comcast. But Comcast never left me feeling very Comcastic. I'll do a couple more speed tests later. Not live. Starlink, this is exciting, in March, reached 250,000 subscribers. That's great. That's a much higher number than I was expecting. MD Hofsey says, Starlink is not liking you talking about it. That's a Starlink problem, isn't it? And I would consider dropping it if there was a reasonably priced, faster option available that didn't have a data cap. Data caps, there's 6 of us in the house. We need no data caps. The 250,000 was very exciting from March until this came out. Now it's at 400,000. They picked up 150,000 subscribers in the last 2 months. Oh, this is happening. This is happening. And, at least here, without a appreciable difference in speed from 2 months ago. 400,000. And just 2% of Starlink users live outside of the West. That means there's so much addressable market. So much. If you look at the map, the global map, you can see North America, yep, available. Puerto Rico, yes. Rest of the Caribbean, it'll come on. South America, yeah, why not? Africa, it's just waiting. It's just waiting. China might be a more impossible nut to crack. They're launching their own constellation, or hoping to, and they may just not want outsiders participating in the transmission of data over their land. Russia may be in the same boat. We shall see. Russia's going to have a number of issues in coming years, but there's a lot of addressable market that hasn't been touched yet. So 400,000 times 120 bucks, that's 48 million, right? 1, 2, 3. 48 million a month. It's over $500 million a year. $500 million smackaroo bobs. And we're potentially looking at doubling that by the end of the year. $500 million, that covers what? 17 launches with satellites? Double that to $1 million? You're covering your whole year's manifest. SpaceX satellites could cost $250,000 each, and Falcon 9 less than $30 million. Yeah, the entire launch could be $30 million for 40, 50 satellites. That's way under $1 million a satellite delivered. How do you get that cheap? So one of the ways is an assembly line. Making one of something costs more than making 10. And making 10 of something costs more per unit than making 100 or 1,000. Each order of magnitude, you get huge savings. And it allows you to iterate while you're going. The original Starlink satellites didn't have frickin' space lasers. The newer ones do. That's exciting stuff. I had read early criticisms that said Starlink would never work because each satellite, I mean, what does a satellite cost to launch? 100 million? Well, let's say they can do it really well and it's 10 million. They need 1,000 satellites. That's what, what do we say? 10 million, 1,000, that's $10 billion. Really, they need 2,000 satellites? That's $20 billion. Guys, 20 billion in the scheme of space is nothing. 20 billion in the scheme of telecom is nothing. But they're doing it for 1/10 of that price. And it works. But here's the real problem. SpaceX to leverage Starship for second-gen Starlink constellation. Now, it goes a little further. Not only does Elon want to use Starship, in the video, which you may have seen, this is on Everyday Astronaut's channel, Elon said Starship is critical to Starlink 2.0. The satellite is significantly bigger and bulkier and more heavy and expensive. And I don't know if you've seen this video, but it's a great one. You may recognize that guy. Where is he? Anyway, it's going to make a clever joke about that you recognize Tim Dodd, and the man with him is Elon. He's a space guy. He's big on Twitter. You may have heard of him. What a view. But Starlink is not going to hinge on whether or not Starship can launch. Man, that's a big tower. Because if Starship doesn't work, it doesn't mean SpaceX and Starlink collapse. It means they stick with the version 1.5 satellites instead of the 2.0. The 2.0 will have vastly higher throughput. It'll have more capacity. And this is helpful because they need to... Putting up 40,000 satellites would be great, but it'd be better to put up 5,000 with the capacity of 50,000. Another way it's cheap is because typically with a satellite, you have to over-engineer the heck out of it. You have to make it extremely reliable. Because if you spend $100 million and it fails, you're done. But if we go back to here, you can see from this block of 1,500 satellites, 221 failed. That's over 10%. That's 15%. From this block of 800, Only 5% failed. Getting better. When they're cheap enough, they don't have to be perfect. If you can cut the price by half and only lose 10%, you're coming out ahead. So they don't have to be perfectly reliable. Are they doomed? No. Let's do another speed test. 37 milliseconds, fine. 60 down, 8.5 up, not great. Not great. I think I did one more at the end. I do. I've got one more speed test in here. Now let's get into the real fun. Kessler syndrome. Oh, the sun. Oh, the ever reputable the sun. Elon's Starlink satellites could stop us spotting asteroids and trap us on Earth, experts warn. Unnamed experts. Oh, look at this mess. So humans, or physics doesn't come naturally to us. It's something that we kind of have to study a bit and learn to understand. But what we're really bad at is understanding objects in four-dimensional space. And I don't mean an extra dimension. I mean 3D plus time. And you could say, well, right, but if you throw me a ball, I can catch it. Cool. Close one eye and try it. Because when you look at this picture, you're looking at a flat representation of a 3D space, not even a 4D space. Each dot here should be the size of a dining room table. That's about the size of a Starlink. Is about the size of a dining room table. But this dot makes it look like it persists a kilometer behind it, or 1,000 kilometers behind it. And in US, that'd be, I think, 1 giga Big Mac. Yeah, I think that's right. So it would be, so it's very hard. When you look at those old World War II movies, where you see the tracer rounds they put so they could shoot down aircraft, those were necessary because humans couldn't, without seeing that tracer and being able to place it with your eyeballs in stereoscopic vision, you couldn't see where the bullets were actually going. And hitting an object moving through 3D space plus time is very difficult. In space, a near miss is a mile. If a pebble comes within a mile of your spacecraft, that was a near miss. Space is very big and it's very empty. If someone shot a bullet a mile away from your dining room table, would you call it a near miss? What if it was actually a mile above your dining room table? Would you call that a near miss? And as big as the Earth is, the space around it is slightly larger. I saw a post where a guy said, all China would need to do to take out all of Starlink is do a single launch and scatter a bunch of ball bearings, 1 million ball bearings on that orbital plane, and it'll take them all out. No, it would not. That is not how space works at all. The ideas to clean up space debris are noble, but you would have to do almost as many launches as have been done in history to clean up space debris, because just changing your inclination takes, depending, more energy than has ever been expended to go to orbit. How long will orbital debris remain in Earth orbit? This is from a little organization called NASA. I'm not sure what that stands for. Need Another Space Association. New American Space Astronauts of America. Debris left in orbit below 370 miles, 600 kilometers, normally falls back to Earth within several years. That is where SpaceX is. They're around the 540 to 550 kilometer range. They deorbit themselves. The ones that have failed have already completely or partially decayed their orbit and will be gone soon. Altitudes of 500 miles, it's measured in decades, and at 1,000 kilometers, it will continue circling for a century or more, which, by the way, is where Jeff Bezos's little OneWeb system is going to be. So Give him some flack, would ya? The Kessler thing, grossly overblown by people who have never played Kerbal and do not know physics. Paul pointed out the size of the space around Earth brings yo mama jokes to mind. I only read half of it before I started. I thought there was going to be a punchline there, Paul. Let's do one more speed test. But first, a quick thanks to my Patreons who get early access, bonus content, ad-free experience, all that good stuff. Keep the channel running. It is difficult to keep things going when enthusiasm is low. When the stock is down, interest is down, views are down, it's all down. And I get a little down myself. But the last 3 days, 23 milliseconds, 42 down, 10 up. It's okay. It's okay. This was a good show. So let's just put this on in the background while we look at Chachacho questions. All right. My neighbor recently got his Starlink and is very happy 1 week in, rural, and moving up from horrendous. Yeah, Charlie, it is. If you have not had broadband terrestrial internet, Starlink is a game changer. I'm okay with waiting if they're trying to expand internationally. Launch cadence for SpaceX is amazing this year. I still watch every launch. I don't watch the deployments. I get through landing. And if I missed it, I'll put it on, but I won't skip forward because I want to experience it live. It still gets me every time. And the launch cadence is amazing. And the reliability of the rocket is breathtaking. It is the most successful operational rocket on the market. It is, yeah. And it helps that they've had over, 115 landings now? Something like that? 110 successful booster recoveries? New batch every other week sent via Falcon 9. Seems like every other day. Charlie, sometimes it is every other day. Sometimes they'll launch one and then another one 28 hours later, and you're like, wow, that's a record. No, I think 16 hours is the record. Do others find launches boring now without a landing? Yes, I will only watch a launch without a landing if it's somehow historic otherwise. If it's, Rocket Lab trying to do something, or I did watch the Starliner go up, but I'm not going to watch the next Starliner. Well, unless it has a crew, but yeah, without a landing. The landing is the beautiful part of it. I was going to call it something a little more adult, but you know what I'm saying. Starlink was never intended to directly compete with fiber. Yeah. In places where fiber exists, by all means use it. It's going to be faster. It's going to hopefully be cheaper. But it's already there. But building out new fiber is very expensive. Makes you wonder how the other SAT providers are still in business even this early on. It does. I really thought Blue Origin was going to get serious. And when Jeff Bezos retired to go focus on Blue Origin, I believed him. But I now see that was not the case. He was just, I don't know. If he's focusing, he's not focusing well. No such thing as a boring launch. David wants me to see if my stream will interrupt if I say Sandy Monroe, because it kept doing that during the live stream with Bear a few days ago. Nope, looks like it stayed on this time. More users will slow you down until they get more satellites up there. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it would have to, right? Unless a particular market. I mean, they know how saturated each, we'll call it, cell site is. Yeah. 2 African countries approved today. Nice. I'm guessing they will be smuggled into some countries. I don't think there's enough laser links to use it outside of your geographic bounds yet. I know if it could be done that way, that RV users would be a lot happier than they are right now. They have opened up portability, but it's limited. Hello, Jeff. Falcon 9 launches are around 15 million. I haven't seen reliable or consistent information, and I know some costs are higher now, including like oxygen costs went up since the pandemic because oxygen was in short supply, and why would prices ever go back down? Hockey Day thinks that the Starlink 2.0 might be $1 million apiece. Possible? Possible? But again, if it's on an assembly line, why would it need to be? But they are a lot bigger and a lot more complex. Talking about when will it go public? 23? 24? I don't know if it will. If it's got so much money in it, I'm just not sure if it needs to or wants to. David says, very good video, worth watching. Thank you, I appreciate that. Starlink version 2 really cleans up in the fast trading market because it's faster than fiber from New York to London. Yeah. Oh, hello, Kirk. Good to see you. Digital Blade. Nice to see you, Digital Blade Canada. Given Starlink sats deorbit in 5 years, even if they did Kessler, you only have to wait 5 years to start again. Exactly. Yeah. A lot of armchair scientists on social media. And a lot of armchair epidemiologists and economists and everything. Yeah. Hello, Casey. Charlie bought a few shares this week. Good timing, I suspect. Oh, OneWeb is not Amazon. Kuiper is Amazon. Thank you for the correction, Matt. Appreciate that. All right. Digital Blade Canada, thank you. I love you too, man. Scott. Starlink and generator makes power outages a non-issue. Love the speed enhancement from our old ISP. Yeah, it's great. Got a couple minutes left if you want to get anything in. By the way, tomorrow's my birthday, so don't forget to slap in them birthday wishes. I'm turning very old. But it's not a milestone birthday, so don't get too excited. Yeah, agree on Rocket Lab and historic. Love the dreams of Rocket Lab. It's an exciting time for space fans. We haven't seen this much diversity and competition and private funding. Paul says he misses them catching the fairing halves. That was an adventure, but it just didn't work. It's unfortunate. But scrubbing them off has worked well, too. So hopefully they will vertically integrate on making fuel. And I don't see why they wouldn't. There was a Falcon 9 launch where they lost the audio feed for the countdown. I thought at the time, yeah. Yeah. Wow. We made it. I feel really good about this episode, you guys. What did I miss or misunderstand? Thank you, Digital Blade, for the birthday wishes. My wife and kids are at the store right now getting something special. I don't know. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Kirk. Who is this? Is a professional expert, which means that there's significant knowledge about professionals. No actual expertise, but just, I sure like that they were willing to try to catch the fairings. Yeah, it's impossible. Hey man, all this stuff is impossible. Reusing boosters is impossible, at least to do so in a profitable way, in a financially viable way. Launching thousands of satellites, that's impossible. What, are you going to do it in a couple of years? Yes. Yes, we are. OneWeb went bankrupt and is now owned by the government of UK and Bharti Global. Yeah, thanks, Mark, it was a good episode. I've been thinking on this one for about a week, and I've been researching it since yesterday, so I'm quite pleased with it. The connectivity is better today. I think Starlink knows they're on notice. Yeah. All right, all right. Okay, guys. Well, if you're catching this on the replay, leave them comments below. What did I miss or misunderstand? Stay tuned. Stay juicy. Can't wait to hear from